Hello and a warm welcome to all the advertisers watching this interview. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome Mr. Nima Namchu to our platform and the fact that he spared some valuable time to have a chat with us. If I give a brief introduction, I would say I've been obviously following him on Twitter since a long time. I've looked up to his views on advertising, but professionally he happens to have been a copywriter, a creative director, an illustrator, and now he's been traveling. We're all looking for your return to India and for you to resume work as well, sir. With that, I'll begin. Sir, if you could just let us know how did it all happen? I mean, how did you fall in love with writing, with advertising? Where did it all start from?
Look, writing as such, was from school, right? Because I guess it was the kind of teachers you met. So it was from as far back as I was in grade 5, I think. There was a teacher called Mrs. Ma'am Ghosh. That's all I remember her name. I grew up in Bhutan because my daddy was working in Bhutan. So she was, I think, married to. Sorry, my dog is barking in the background. But
that's fine.
She was, I think, the wife of somebody who was working with the Indian embassy there. So she used to teach us English, and in one of those, comprehension or whatever story writing test. So I wrote something and she got interested in that piece. So she spent about 3 months trying to get me to sort of expand that little, 1 page or half a page story. I was in grade 5 to a 3-page story, she actually, so suddenly you felt that, hey, maybe that's your talent, because honestly speaking, I was not very athletic like my other friends. So you find, something else where you think you shine or you do better than, the rest of your gang. So sort of get attracted to that. And then it was not something I actively, pursued, because as you know, in our Indian families, especially in the earlier days, you could either be an engineer or a doctor or civil service officer. Then my parents wanted me to become a doctor, so that's what I was striving for. But I got sort of waylaid, in my days of youth. So I failed gloriously in class 12. So in all subjects except for English and art. Yeah. So maths, physics, chemistry, biology, and all that. So anyways, I had to rewrite the exams, got through. But by that time, I had lost total interest in science. Right. So I just continued to college just to get a degree. And I'm from Kalimpong, so we were back in India by then. So Kalimpong and Darjeeling back in the 80s was going through political turmoil and a lot of violence and all that was happening. So there was hardly any education. There was no future really for youngsters. We were young then, after graduation. So my sisters were in Delhi. They were studying in masters. They were doing the masters, and one of them was doing B.Ed, and one was married also in Delhi. So a couple of my friends senior friends had moved to Delhi too. They were studying. Some of them were with Times School of Marketing, and some were with DU and stuff like that. So my dad said, "Why didn't you go over to Delhi and figure out what you can do?" Because my graduation marks were terrible. You could tell that I was not really interested in science. So I don't know how I passed, scraped through. There was no way I was going to get, anything with that certificate. So I came to Delhi. I hung around for about a year, doing really nothing, because I would look out for jobs, and then I would find that everybody wants either a fantastic, scores in your, college or school, or back then in the early 90s was this thing for. There was a job where all the young boys would be wearing ties and selling soft toys, door to door.
Okay.
That is the kind of job. So I spent about 6 months or 8 months going through, those employment pages in the newspaper. Nothing happened. So I started illustrating because I used to illustrate. I used to be in school. So I borrowed some money from my sister, bought some paint, brush and paper and started drawing. And then one day, two friends I'd come to know dropped by. And one of them was the guy who wrote and directed, Delhi Belly, the movie, Akshat Verma.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Akshat he used to live in Delhi University. His parents were teachers there, professors there. So he came, and another friend, both of them used to work for this small magazine called First City Magazine in Delhi. Right. So Akshat was a writer there, and Yondan, the other person, was a writer and illustrator who saw my work and all this interesting, and they just saw it because the paper was all over the place and the drawings were all over the place. So one day, this other guy, this Yondan, got a job with India Today as a sub-editor. So he was moving. So his boss had asked him to get him a replacement illustrator. So I was sitting in Delhi University doing nothing, doing all the things that one should be doing. And then he asked me if I was interested. So I walked in and they looked at my work, and then I got a job. It was paying $1,600 or something a month. So from being an illustrator, and most writers are lazy, right? So they always procrastinate. So every month there would be a page or two empty in a newspaper, in the magazine, So there's no story. Somebody has not turned in a story, or somebody didn't write long enough or whatever. So the article wasn't long enough. So they would ask me to go and do an interview or write a fiction piece or anything, a thought piece. I was just a young kid there, 25 years old or 24 years old. So I started doing it. And Akshat, who was there also as a writer, he was earning about, I think, $2,000 or something. I was earning $1,600. And so we were all enamored by advertising, because we always thought they were the cool guys. They were seemed to be having fun, and we imagined they were earning tons of money. So this guy said, why don't we try, let's get out of this hole, we'll try copywriting. So we both attempted. In the meantime, Akshat was wanting to become a filmmaker, wanting to go to FTI. So I attempted, and I sat for copy tests in a couple of agencies. And somehow, after 6 months after I sat for a copy test, Sachi, those days it was called Sisters Private Limited. So they called me back. So I went in as a copy trainee. So I didn't know anything. I mean, it was just, totally learning on the job. So that's how I got in. And then you realize it's fun because, besides, it was so relaxed. And I didn't have any, I didn't have a choice because I couldn't be choosy about it. My marks were bad, right? I couldn't have ambitions about, becoming some senior big guy. So I, just learned on the job. So that's, and over time you realize you enjoy it, you like it, and especially when you see the work done by other people, great work done by people who came before you, or people who work with you, or from international award books. And those days there were no tapes or CDs, it was books. But then you just say, there's so much you could do. So that's how I stuck around. And before you know it was like 26, 27 years gone by. So that's how it is.
One thing on my mind, and I'm sure it's on every cricket fan's mind, is how did you first think of the wall for Rahul Dravid? Because you were the first person to coin it, come up with that term, which has over a period of time been so it's used to describe him, and even it's relevant till date. How was that? I mean, how did you come up with it? And then what was your reaction to the response it got?
I think, first of all, if you just look, step back a bit around that time, this is 90s, late 90s. So, it was also 92, 91, 92 is when, all these Stars TV and MTV and the whole, the world had opened up for us, right? In media wise, we're just starting to see the world. So ESPN and Star Sports. ESPN was the big one then. So I think we were suddenly getting exposed to sports communication, or even sports treated in a totally different way. Like for instance, people watching Formula One, or you're watching boxing, or you're watching, American football or baseball, and you saw the kind of excitement. I think the marketers or the communication people had created around each sport. So and soccer, and suddenly you're getting to see so much action. So I think there was a need I think the marketers felt, Reebok, or overall, I think the sports industry in India felt the need to give our cricket an edge, make it sexy, right? I think because it was too much of a gentleman's. Sorry, you remember my dog, so he's bothering me. So sorry.
We'll have a joint interview.
Yeah, so he is otherwise going to be barking all day. So so there was a need to give, I think, make cricket sexy, I think, So the whole tone of, it was a gentleman's game, but you had to give the gentleman a little bit of an edge, right? So one of the ideas, and that's not my idea, it was the brief from our creative director, Mr. Nitin Berry then, who said, let's come up with, names for each guy. Let's give them a character. Because all of them are, nice guys, otherwise they're all nice guys. Nobody had, even if you look back at our, heroes of the past, Little Master for Mr. Gavaskar. It doesn't have, you had to give them a bit of an edge, made them a little naughty. So we started coming up with names, and we had all the guys in fact, all the sports stars who were, had signed up with Reebok. Reebok was a client then, so we came up with names for Azharuddin. There was, I think, Assassin or whatever that was. There was for Javagal Srinath, we had Javelin. So each guy had something. We had even Bhaichung Bhutia had he was a striker, so he had a name there, and even tennis stars, badminton stars. So we came up with a lot, and we used to look at the guys and, are they fast bowlers? Are they, are they just, do they go after the ball no matter what, or that kind of thing. And then we were actually figuring out what to do with Rahul, right? Because he was always quite new guy, one of the youngest people then. And then there was this, I think, match with against South Africa, I think it was, where he faced Alan Donald,
Okay.
And bigger, senior, tougher, faster, whatever, wilder opponent, and Dravid, Rahul stood his ground, and he just kept hitting him no matter what, right? So we just then that's how he was like unshakable, he was unmovable, so it's a wall, you can't bring him down, right? So you can't. There's only way to go is go past him, and he just won't go down, So that's how the name came up. So. In fact, in the ad that was released, it was a print ad. The line "Rahul the Wall Driver" was actually very small. It was a little caption next to his photograph, because he was new. He was so young then. So we had taken a black and white photograph of him with water sprayed on him to make him look like he's sweating and make him look tough and all that. And we asked him to keep a stubble so that we could make him look a little. Those days he used to be totally clean shaven. So we asked him to keep him a stubble to look a little. Tougher. And that ad was released, and we forgot about it. Yeah, one nice half-page newspaper black and white ad was released, went away. But the following weekend, there was the brand equity quiz. Yeah, and Mr. Derek O'Brien those days was a quiz master. So he asked this question it was the brand equity quiz finals.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was the question that he asked, which is a question that he just threw out to the audience. It was not even part of his whole act, and nobody knew except for one guy in the audience who had read the paper and seen the ad, I guess. And then suddenly overnight, that name got picked up by sports journalists and everybody else. And everywhere Rahul would mention, the wall would come in, right? And over time, I was like totally shocked, that something like this is possible. But now you look back and you say, that's what viral is, It just, you don't plan it, it just happens. It catches the imagination of people, and then people take it forward and make what it is. So honestly speaking, I think it's thanks to Derek O'Brien. So if he had not asked that question, I don't think really, I don't know. But fortunately, unfortunately, all the names that we came up for other stars did not stick, right? But for some reason, this one stuck with Dravid, and Dravid sort of has been sort of lived up to the name, or the name lived up to him, So that's great. But
what was your reaction, and how do you till they react to people calling him the wall? You take it with pride, or is it one of those things?
I feel good. It does feel good, but I don't go around saying, "Hey, I wrote it." Like that was there was a brief. Somebody gave me a brief, right? It was an assignment. So I came up with it. It got approved. It stuck. I didn't know it was going to be big. I mean, it lasts for so long. I've become a part of the language, and everybody in part of his life. What I was amused about was I read some interview of his where he says that he really doesn't like the name.
I believe what he said is it was a very smart name, because you could also twist it around. The day he doesn't score runs, the wall breaks. So he said it's a very smart one. Yeah.
But Reebok for a long time they had him. In fact, many years later, almost, when was it, about 2006, 2007? Because in between I changed agencies, and between 2006 or 2005 to 2007, again I got to work on Reebok, and he was still with Reebok then. And some of the guys client side who had worked with I had worked with before were still around. So we actually did I think a 10-year ad with him. We just said, "Where were you?" and he became the wall. Because by that time, Dravid was being sort of sidelined. People were not really, because bigger hitters had come in. Dhoni was in the picture. All these guys are coming. So, Dravid is, what people say as a has-been. But I don't think, everybody becomes a has-been. But, at one time, everybody was a hero. I think you should respect stars and all performers for what they did in their prime. So we did that ad, and I thought, so there was an attachment, so you have with the person. I met him a couple of times, but I never went up to say, and hey, I came up with the name. We were at the Rolling Stones concert together, sitting side by side. And the Pepsi guys, I think the sponsors came in and gave him, because he was Dravid, they gave him about 6 glasses of Pepsi and 6-7 packets of chips. He was very embarrassed. He passed on the Pepsi to us, but he's a nice guy.
Great. You've spent so many years in this field, and I'm sure everyone has their best experiences, their funniest experiences, their worst experiences. And since the way we both like this conversation to be is a little free flowing, why don't you just tell us about some of your best, worst, funniest times, maybe on a shoot, on a client project, working on a brand?
Well, there are many stories, so I'll cover the few, I guess. But if some of them are a bit too, I may not take names, but if it's about me, then that's all fine. The funniest thing I experienced of advertising I've had is when my first job was, at an agency. I copy training, and I joined, and the day I joined, so I asked them, where do I sit? And they pointed me to a safe. So there was an old safe, which is not being used. So they gave me a cushion, and said, "You sit here and work here." So that's it. I look back and I say, I said, I could have asked her. We probably demanded for a chair, but I think we were a little too young and naive, so we sort of, too scared to ask. So he sat on a safe for about a year and a half.
Wow. For a year and a half.
Yeah. So before, but you never asked. You just did what you had to do. Funny incidents were like a client falling asleep while you're presenting a script, 3 scripts actually, and we were sitting close to each other. There was just me, my branch head, and the client, and the top client. And I started presenting. I went halfway through the first script, and he fell asleep. So they were not such boring scripts. I can tell you, they were not boring scripts. Then I turned to the branch head and said, "Just continue. Just don't stop, just continue." So I presented 3 scripts to a man who was snoring in front of me. And then as soon as it was done, he opened his eyes and he said, "Very nice." Yeah. But those films never got made. So I don't know what the meeting was for. That is that. Those are funny ones. I don't want to, let's say, actually spell out really nasty. There are nasty people everywhere in the agency side as well as the client side. So, they come and they go. But what makes the business, what makes it really painful is, when there are some brands or some clients, let's say, clients or brands, who are really okay with the status quo, and they really don't want to shake the apple cart. They want to be safe, and most of the time they are brands which are from multinational companies, because there's a lot of layers and layers of reporting structure that they have, or they'll have multiple brand managers from different countries, marketing guys involved in one project. So those jobs are very painful. You really realize that if you look at those brands, some of the brands, you'll see the work they do every year is exactly the same piece of work. They'll change agencies, but the work will still be the same, right? And most of those pieces of work are very average, or become like wallpaper. But they succeed purely out of, I think, the media monies they pump in, or because the categories that they are in really don't need advertising. People will buy those products.
Right.
Yeah. So those are painful. But what else can I say? There were tough clients. Tough is fine. I think tough clients are, the challenging clients are great. But overall, I've enjoyed working with homegrown entrepreneurs, brands more.
Okay.
There, what happens? In fact, most even smaller entrepreneurs, because like I said, there are lesser, fewer levels to go through. A man takes the call. A woman, whoever's at the head of the table, if he trusts you, then gives you enough responsibility and freedom. That's fun. Recently, as in 2015, 16 it was, I think, there was one meeting where we present, after a couple of rounds of presenting to this marketing team, we presented to the owner of the company. There were 2 scripts, as usually shortlisted 2 scripts. So he just heard it because his team had approved it. So he usually would give the team, freedom to approve. But he just looked at me and said, "Which one do you want to make?" So I, being the chief creative officer of the agency and being half creative, half servicing role, so you start saying, "Nahin, dono apne hi hai." So both of them are good. Both of them have the pros and advantages of running. One is this way, one is that way, but you can run either. So he just looked at me and had a little bit of Rajnikanda, and then he looked at me, Rajnikanda, he says, "Aisa nahi hota hai." So he just says, "You put your hand on your heart and tell me which one I should make." And then for a couple of seconds, I'm stumped, and suddenly the huge responsibility is put on you. But then I think you make the honest call then. I think that was a great experience. It was scary at that moment, but I've liked working with people like that more than second guessing all the time. That's okay. One was a experience, let's say, with a client. It started off painful, became fantastic over the years. I just joined an agency, so and his account had been up for a pitch just before I joined. He had called for a pitch and he wanted to give the account away. So I had just also joined, and Delhi offices, Bombay offices, everybody worked together on the pitch. And an idea it was a Delhi account, Delhi agent office account. But the line from one of the guys from Bombay teams was approved. Right? The idea was approved. So the agency gave the job to me because I was head of the Delhi office then. So, but he was not too sure because I was a new guy. He had never worked with me, but he had worked with the other guys before. So he would always say, the client would always say, "Nee, Bombay wala se bhi karwa lena, thoda script." So anyways, we used to keep doing it. So my request to my team was simple. Like, it's our account, right? I mean, we have to be competitive even within the agency. It's a Delhi account. So the day one script gets approved, a Bombay script gets approved, then the account goes out of Delhi, right? And all of us will be, looking for jobs. So I said, for the first 6 months, we'll just work our butt off, and then we'll make sure that this account stays in Delhi office. So 3-4 rounds of scripting, and then the client finally one day said, "You don't have to brief the Bombay office anymore." So that was a good thing that happened. Mm-hmm. So it's not a nice feeling when the client doesn't trust you, but when and you can sense that they don't trust you, and it's very difficult to work in such situation. But when you can convert that, I think that's a great feeling. And the same client, so we want to go on for the first shoot after the script was approved. So suddenly I get a call in Bombay saying, "Client will come for the shoot." So I said, and I had never had a client coming for the shoot all those years, I said, okay, so 3 clients landed up for the shoot. The client, his, junior engineer ka bhi junior aa gaya. So then they all have a point of view in the shoot. Aise shoot karo, ye karo. I kept quiet and say, I told the servicing guy to just keep the client as far away as possible, but can't much. So the post-production time happened. The client had gone off to Delhi. So I was in Bombay. I was doing the offline, and I get a call from the servicing guy. The client is coming today to see you offline. So I said, So I said, offline, right? The animation has not happened. Nothing has happened. We're just getting the structure together. Yeah, there's no need to come. So he said, send it. Then send the offline edit. I said, what are you going to see in the offline edit? The colors are not done. Nothing is fixed. Music is not right. We're just getting the structure together. Trust us. And there's a very, respected and experienced director who's working with us. And after some time, you have to trust the director too, and the team that you've given the job. So, nahi, client aayega. So finally, I said, he will not sit at the edit. He can come and have a look, because I had to give in. So after finished our offline, then he came in. Then he walks into the studio, sits there and says, looks at it and says, oh shit. He actually said, you effed my film. Okay? So me and the director, we don't know what to do, because the client basically said he doesn't like what he's seen. So he's saying edit is all wrong, blah, blah, blah. So after it came to a point where neither the director and I could sit with the client in the edit room anymore. The atmosphere was just too, it had really gone, I don't know what to say. I think it would have probably ended up in a fight, any longer. So every time the client would go in, we would step out, and he was chain smoking like mad. You'd come out, we'd go back in. And finally, he said, I've made the changes. So finally the client said, okay, you sit here with the editor and make the changes that you want. So he makes it. And after 45 minutes, he calls us, I've done it. We go in, it's the same film. Just little one frame here, one frame there, exactly the same film. So he's still not happy with it. He's still saying, but no. Maza nahi aaya. The previous team had done a better job. The usual, and it doesn't go down very well. So we said, okay, now let's go and do the music. So we took him to hear the music that we had done. he bombs the music. Okay, doesn't like the music also. Film has to be ready like tomorrow, day after. We have to take it back to TV. So we sat down and redid the music with a new music director. Finally, he was not happy with it, but he sort of pushed. We were happy with it. We were happy with the music. So he pushed it. So he finally around, I think we did the online, put a finish karke, I think it was around 4 o'clock in the morning. It was raining heavily in Prime Focus in Bombay those days. Raining like mad. We got in a cab with me, my servicing guy, the client and his junior. And we are not talking to each other because, the whole situation, he doesn't like the stuff we've done. We think we have done a good job. So he got in a cab and we go back together because we had to share it in Delhi to his team. We got on the plane. We haven't had a bath, nothing. We just got on a plane, came back to Delhi in the morning, got into the car, and from the airport to Noida, we drove. And he's still saying, we've really messed up the film and I don't know how you're going to salvage this. So he sets up this film and whatever TV in his office and calls his people one by one, his office people, just to get away. And first 20 people who came in one by one, they said, bahut maza aa gaya, bahut acha hai, bahut maza aa gaya, it's fantastic. Then he looks at us and says, I think we've done a good job. Oh my God, that is like, amazing. But after that day, I think he, at some point, I think we earned his trust. And we also realized that he's not a typical client who sits and reviews, because he's also a creative kind of guy, because he writes and he was a musician also. So, so we changed the way we worked with him, unlike with other clients. So it became almost a collaborative thing, right? So not that he would write the script, but we understood where it goes, and then finally he would take the call, or let's say he would take the responsibility for the work. So if it did well, everybody gets the glory. If it doesn't do well, he would take the responsibility. So I think that was so we're great friends now. I mean, I don't want to take his name, but he's a great person. And but that day, I think I was asking myself, how the hell did I get myself into such a situation? But now you look back, you laugh about it. So, otherwise, fine.
Some of your best work that you like, it could be a brand, a script, something.
Look, this is a question actually my wife had also asked me a couple of days back. So I realized most of the best work that I've done, I feel I have done, was never seen the light of day. And most of the work that I have done, mostly, I think, pretty average work, honestly. So it's not a, memorable, stuff that I've liked. I was more of a print person, I think.
Okay.
But so there were some pieces of work we did back then which were nice. But the stuff that people like, sort of in quotes, let's say, got me fame is the Reebok line, right? And then there were a couple of ads we did around Reebok. So overall, the work on Reebok was fine. But I think Domino's, the work we did for 5 years that I worked on was so many films there, but not all of them were great. But some of them were nice. There was one I had worked with since my Hindi was not too hot, so this creative director called Sambit Mishra, who's now writing films in Bombay. So he and I worked on this Domino script, which is about, again, the client had asked us, that client said, I want to show my delivery guy in the film. Dikhani hai, So we said, why do you need a delivery guy? No, we want to film around a delivery guy, So that's the brief, So we were struggling for weeks and everything was getting bombed. So finally, I was just sitting down and said, look, they want to tell a story of a delivery guy delivering pizza on time every time, no matter what. So, the client's always happy to show their own people. We should also look at the client's point of view. So I said, any adult will look at the whole story and say, "Yeah, kya hai, delivery at 30 minutes. Okay, that's part of the job. You get paid for that." So I said, so I was just telling my kids. I said, kids, I said, the team members. So I just said, let's look at it from a child's perspective. For a child who waits for a pizza, right? Wouldn't it be amazing if the child imagines all the obstacles that come in the way of the pizza delivery guy, right? And he said, no matter what, he always delivers on time, right? So we wrote a nice, and Hindi is a very nice and language that way, especially when you want to write poetic stuff. So again, the writers kept saying, but what are we going to say? What are we going to say? So I said, so my limited Hindi, but I had to sort of visualize. You sort of write, came up with a thought which sort of gives you a picture, So I say that puncture wali keel, that's on the road, and just imagine there's one nail on the road, and car tires are passing by, and there's one nail that keeps turning, and you say, वो puncture wali keel छुट्टी पे कहाँ जाता है? जिस दिन pizza घर आता है, So you just, so I said, can you come up with so if I wrote that line, what else can we say? So the moment that was done, then Samit took that line and he made a 45-second out of it with more lines, and so it was just a kid's point of view of just a guy who gets who has to stop for a railway crossing, or there's rain, or there is a political rally that comes in the way, or puncture hota hai, kuch bhi hota hai, but how does and the film was also, of course, about delivery in 30 minutes, no matter what. So something like that. I think that was a good film. I liked. So there were a few, but I don't know. There was look, it's a simple film. It was a film for Nescafe Sunrise, which is a coffee for South India. So there was a coffee or taste that we had to write. Simple film. So again, it's not a famous film, but I like the film because first of all, it was written for the South market by me. Okay, so I also believe that sometimes you don't need to know the language; you just need to tell a story that is universal. So it's just a story about how you go, like, okay, I'm holding my tea, but and if it's something nice, you go, the first sip, So I use that thing as every time. So the boy and girl, young husband and wife, the wife keeps getting the husband to say almost agree by giving coffees, and she gets her way. So it was that film, and then it got made, and it was successful down there, and it, in Tamil Nadu did very well. And a month later, McDonald's came up with a similar campaign. Okay.
Wow.
But McDonald's had I think 8 or 9 film campaign, which is like tremendous, huge media budget comparatively, and so that becomes a national campaign, and so this was a regional campaign. But I like that film a lot.
What a lovely thought.
But it's just simple. I think simplicity.
Yeah.
But over the years, you also tend to, in fact, as now I look back and I say, maybe I should have done some of my ads myself, So, but the stuff that the team, I worked with the team, it did work. I'm very proud of some of the work that the team did with me. So I think I had some role to play, some bits, and they were nice. One is the Escotel film for ISD rates film. It was again a small film, done with a very small production house in Chennai, written by Joyce Shepherd. She was my copywriter there. So it was a simple idea. We worked together on it. It's a simple idea of those days STD was very high, back in the early, let's say late 90s, even let's say early 2000s. So you have this, it's raining, and we see a telephone booth somewhere in Kerala, and there's a guy talking inside, right? And you can hear the conversation. Conversation is all about, have you met the girl? Have you looked at the girl? Have you looked at the photograph? Whatever, just that conversation happening. And then the rain stops, the door opens, and the guy walks out and is talking on the mobile phone. And he continues to have the conversation. So basically, he had already taken shelter under the telephone booth because it was raining. And you say, ISD calls are only this much now, So it was a very simple script, simple idea. But again, then, I think as a creative piece, it was one shot, no camera movement. We finished the shoot in about, 3 hours. Actually, it was, I went down to Chennai for that shoot, 3 hour shoot, came back. But even the director, added a lot to the film, because we only had that whole concept of a guy goes to the telephone booth talking on his mobile phone. It rains, the rain stops, he goes. Now we don't know how do you make that film interesting, So the director said, we're talking about guy from Kerala talking to somebody in Abu Dhabi, so let's have a conversation about one of them is a bachelor somewhere. So have you met the girl? Have you seen the picture? So because the people in Kerala will relate to it. But that conversation had nothing to do with the film, right? It was just a conversation. But they just had a ball. The director just had a ball doing that bit, and then we came up with a film. It's a very small film. It was, I think, 20-second film. But I like that film a lot.
Great. What would be your message to your younger self, let's say the 25-year-old self? What would you say to him in retrospect?
Okay, two things. One is learn the business of it. Yeah, I think as a creative person too. I think a lot of us focus too much on creative, and we let everybody handle, the business side of it. I think it's important to not just to understand the business, but later it gives you enough, let's say, legs or confidence if you want to start something on your own. And a lot of people are doing that. I think, and people who understand their business better are far more confident of starting their, own businesses. I think that's there. It also helps you, of course, maneuver your way up the ladder. Yeah, that's one.
Sure.
But I think more than anything else, at the end of the day, it is a business. So you have to understand that bit of it. That's why, if you want to end up with your own shop later, that's what I feel. And the other is you have to keep working. As in, everybody will, especially when you're at 25. I think I did what I was supposed to do because I worked like a dog, but because I thought I had to make up for lost time, because I did not have training. I was not exposed to marketing. I came from a science background. I came from a small town. I had language issues. I still am not very good in Hindi, but back then it was terrible. But now over the years, my Hindi has improved. And also, so you have to work harder, twice as hard. But I don't think there is a getting away from working hard. But people say, there is a whole conversation about why do you work so hard? Why do you work so late? I think a lot of that is up to you, right? But in the creative field, when do you stop saying, this is all I'm going to do? I could do more, but so I think we do have to work hard, especially anything to do with craft. You keep polishing it till it gets better. Of course, you have to be smart enough to, I think, choose the battles. And I don't think one should work in a way that it ruins your health or affects your family life and all that. Those things are there, but and then everything is not in the office. Man, everything is not in the computer, especially in the field of we are in communication. When you are talking to consumers and wanting people to change their minds, and we're trying to make establish new thoughts, whatever. I think a lot of the stuff is going on outside. So it's important to sort of be a sponge, and be a sponge of the good and the bad, and then you can tell the difference. I think it's important to develop a taste or a judgment. For that, you have to just experience a lot of things, good and the bad, and then you should be able. And of course, everybody evolves. Nobody is perfect on day one, so or even on day 100. But it's a gradual. And have fun. I think you should want to. It should be work. Should be fun. You should want to go. And work with people who are better than you. Ideally, work with people who are better than you. Always try and work for. Don't look for the agency name. Look for people. People who are. And life is too short to work with. I don't want to use the word, but find people that you want to work with. People who are good people. I think that's important at the end of the day. And if you work with good people, fair people, and talented people, very tough to come across who have all the qualities. But if you're lucky enough to find them, hold on to them and don't leave them, irrespective of whether they're servicing, planning, or an art director or copywriter. Doesn't matter. A great planner or great servicing guy sometimes is even more important than the art director or copywriter that you work with. So that's all.
Right.
Yeah.
Just lastly, your thoughts on current advertising, where it's going, how much do you like it? What are your thoughts on current trends in advertising, where it's going?
Well, look, it is, especially in the last couple of years, I think, more so from 2020. I'm looking at, I look at agency facts and campaign India every morning out of habit, right? But I also follow people's work and stuff like that. Honestly speaking, very few brands have, or agencies work really sort of grab the attention, at least my attention. I think overall, the purpose, brands with purpose thing, I think everybody's doing it. Even people who don't have a purpose are doing a purpose campaign. So after some time, it just becomes lip service, right? And I think consumers are not as dumb as we think they are. Consumers are also MBAs, consumers are also artists, consumers are also, doctors. So they are smart. So I think somewhere I'm not seeing enough of sell, because at the end of the day, what happens is today, clients will turn around and saying, sales nahi ho raha hai, what is my number, right? But I'm not seeing enough work that has been created to make that difference. People are doing a lot of brand work, but the problem is at the same time we complain about long term. People are not thinking long term, but everybody seems to be having a short term targets. But I don't know if work has been created to fix those things. Personally, I like a few pieces of work that came out recently. I like the cred work. People may disagree with me, but I personally like the cred work. But everybody says, but what is cred? What do I have to do cred? But I said, it is not advertising's job to do everything. It never was. But I think today we are overloading the advertising. We want advertising to communicate and make the sell, and if it can also take the product and put it in the consumer's hand. I think for instance, just a couple of days ago, I saw the Jaguar lights campaign that's come out of enormous Ashish Khazanchi's agency.
This IPL campaign, right?
Yeah. I thought, where the person thinks it's a tap, is shower, and I thought it was interesting. It's very simple. All you have to announce is Jacquard makes lights now, right? And let's do it in an interesting, fun way, that people enjoy. I think that is some of that fun part is missing in a lot of the communication today. And the world is, a lot of stuff going on in the world. Yes, I'm not saying we have to ignore all the things. If you can make a difference, we should make a difference. But I think it's also important to lighten up a bit. Because at the end of the day, we are making a sale, right?
Yeah.
We are trying to make a sale. Consumers are smart enough to understand that. And, it's how, if I would try and sell you something with so much, let's say, preaching about good and bad and what is happening, after some time you may not believe me, But if I'm sort of don't take myself too seriously and entertain you, tell you what the product is all about, okay, you may not buy it today, but okay, you might buy it tomorrow, but you will not think I don't trust this guy, because a lot of people now are looking at the purpose and saying, hey, the brands are just riding on the purpose, let's say even on, let's say, COVID, there was weird campaigns, right? Anti-COVID trousers and anti-COVID ties. What nonsense, I mean, it was so blatantly, let me ride on this. So I would,
right.
I as a consumer would switch off, if I saw something like that, because brands are supposed to be like people. If people behave that way, you really wouldn't want to be associated with such a brand. So that's the kind of stuff. Overall, I think, look, there is tech. Tech is okay. There's some tech work happening, but like even today, I mean, while I didn't think it deserved such a big, such a big attention, but the recent the remake of the Cadbury film, that cricket film where turned around,
the girl plays.
It is sweet. It is sweet. It is sweet and fantastic. Opportunity to do that, and 90% of the people loved it. But if you look at it, we're still having to, if you still have to remake films, right? That probably means, are we still talking about old campaigns? That probably means not enough great work is happening today. So
right.
So we're not seeing enough. I think we're not seeing work that made people, the kind of work that makes people famous. Agencies famous. I think, or brands famous. Agencies or brands famous. Let's say. I mean, Chlorment chewing gum, right? That the Palace film, Happy Dent. Happy Dent, was a film everybody talked about, right? Or the film that came from Capital, Candy Singh and Parshu did that campaign film called Ki Kare Papa Petrol Khatam Nahi Hota. I mean, it made a small agency like Capital famous. Right? I mean, Har Ghar Kuch Kehta Hai, or I mean, there is work.
Fevicol, maybe.
Fevicol. Yeah. If why not famous work? So we're not getting that kind of work. I mean, that's what I feel. I'm okay. Right. Very unpopular things that I've said, but
no, absolutely. But I still think. There are two brands that come to my mind. Maybe you might just find their ads to be a little better. The recent ones. One is, I think, Spotify. If you've seen their campaign, the girl is just stuck in the traffic, and there are two gentlemen fighting, and I thought maybe that one was decent, and I think there was one more that had come to my mind. Maybe just missed out. But anyway, I think your favorite cred ad, since you like that campaign, Is it this one? They go back the traditional route, or maybe
No, I like
earlier one?
The one that really I took off on. I really loved was that whole series with the stars, but of all of them, I liked Bapi Larry one. I liked it. I liked Rahul Dravid one. Rahul Dravid one was, I think, spectacular. That was that was fantastically done.
He literally breaks walls or glasses.
Yeah. No, what I liked about that campaign was that nobody was taking it seriously except for people who were criticizing that campaign. Because
he did it with all the passion.
Yeah, but even like, let's say the Bapi Larry, or there was who was even Anil Kapoor was there, right? Madhuri Dixit.
Anil Kapoor, Madhuri Dixit. I think Govinda.
Yeah. So the thing about they don't take themselves seriously. I mean, there is no need to. And people are saying it's not disrespect. Why are you disrespecting old? They're taking it as it's a light joke. And it's interesting to say, okay, I mean, all these guys are not required. All you need to know is cred. I think that's a simple and they got the cut through, and people to sit up and notice what's happening. So I think the job was done. It was effective, I think, and of course then people went on to say, "What it is not explaining what it is. It is not explaining what it is, what it does." So I said, my point is maybe you're expecting too much out of the ad. I mean, it's like that one black coffee phone ad, back Ericsson many years ago. We won, I think India won, I think, was it the first can for film? I think many years ago, Prasun Pandey's one. In that, the one black coffee, all it says is it was a small phone, right? It didn't tell you, battery life kya hai, wo kya hai, all that didn't matter. So I think that, yeah, that's it. I don't think I like work that doesn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah, I think one of the second brand I was talking about, maybe one of the previous Swiggy campaigns. I think Harsha Bhogle's voice, and I think maybe that might also fall into the similar space you're talking about.
No, these brands are this category. If you look at the category, right, these are the guys who seem to do slightly edgy stuff, Or if you look at Jaguar, it's not edgy, but it's fun, right? They've understood they've not forgotten the value of entertainment, It's an old saying, what is that? I think Walt Disney said it. It is, you have to teach, right? The only way to teach is something, I mean, it's not the exact quote, but it says, to teach, first you have to entertain,
Yeah.
And that's what Walt Disney used to say, So
there was, I think, a similar quote. I'm forgetting the name, but it went, "Teach me all that you might want to, but first, please crack a joke."
So
something like that.
I think that's the point. Today, most of the work, we're not seeing that stopper. It doesn't stop you on the. I recently saw that the campaign. The teaser campaign they did was which delivery campaign was this with the dead refrigerator?
I know, Dunzo. Someone is dead. Yeah.
It was.
They give it a name. Some chunk. Some. Yeah.
I thought it was. It was an attempt, but this. It felt like a Diggen Verma campaign from the 90s, I think. It was so fruity. At the end of the day, after all that hoo-ha in the teaser, you realize kya tha, it was let down. But also, we don't have stopper campaigns. Like, for instance, the Happy Dent campaign, or the old Chlormint campaigns, or even if you look at it doesn't make you want to sit figure out what's going to happen, or if it's print ad, will I stop turning the page? I think that's the basic fundamental of advertising or communication is to stop that guy from scrolling or flipping a page. So that, and also this long form films that we're making, some of them can be 15 seconds shorter, it just goes on, and so I think that's where I think people with craft or experience should come in and take calls. Just because it's a digital film, let's make it 3 minutes. If it can be said in 15 seconds,
15 seconds.
Say it in 15 or 30, but say it in the right amount of time, and entertain, keep me interested. I think that's because right now I'm seeing more PR work that's goes on to say why the work is good. A lot of average work gets a lot of PR machinery working to say, hey, this is great. So
right.
If the ad needs PR
and you plug in a client testimonial, and then it suddenly become a very successful campaign.
So if your work needs testimonials, then I think it's
right.
So I'm not trying to run every bit down. There is some grit, and there are challenges, and I'm not in their shoes, so it's not fair, of course. But we haven't seen can-worthy work. Let's say even can-worthy work. No, I mean, if you were to say that, if this year you're going to put work in, and how many of you? But then at the same time, it's all over the world. It's not just in not just in India. I think the change in the media and tech and all that is, there's everybody's a little bit of chaos right now. So, but that's what I feel. But I think it can be, it's 100% of the work is never good. It never was,
Never good.
Yeah.
Right.
Very minuscule, part of the work that actually comes out is great work. Our life, my career, everybody's career is same thing. But we need to do those 20-30% of great work.
20%,
Sort of memorable, famous work chahiye. I think that famous work is sort of it's come down in the last. It's famous because you've attached yourself to an issue. It's not famous because it was such a great film.
Right.
Instead of saying, wow, so much, so brave to attach themselves to this issue. So that's where my disconnect is. So what are we evaluating? Are we evaluating the craft and the creativity, or are we evaluating your stat? So,
right.
And a lot of the times is once you've aligned yourself with a certain issue or current hot topic, then you assume that will take care of things. Craft can wait. The quality
right.
of your script can wait.
Right.
That's what it is.
Lovely.
I hope I have not said too much.
No, I think it's been, I think everything that you've shared, all the stories, all the experiences, the good, bad, the funny ones, I'm sure, just not for me personally, I think for everyone who will be watching this, I think it will serve as a great guiding light. And I believe some of those evaluations of the ads as to why, let's say, a CRED campaign works for you, why an XYZ campaign works for you, even digging down history and saying what is it that really works. I think it will serve as a great sort of bank of information for everyone who's going to watch it. So on behalf of our team and on behalf of everyone who's going to be watching the video interview very soon, we'd like to thank you, and I hope you come back to India soon.
I'm back end of the month.
End of the month?
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Sure.